Okay, so inshallah, let's start. We're doing review for HTML and CSS. We're not gonna touch on everything. Gonna go over a couple of examples of HTML, a couple of examples of CSS, and then we're gonna jump into like responsiveness and what it is and how to like use that. And then we're gonna do a small project, inshallah. So let me see if I see some messages I'm getting. Yeah, so we'll touch on responsiveness. Yeah, and mobile first. Okay, sounds good. I will focus on those. So we'll quickly touch on HTML, and then we'll touch on CSS, and then we'll talk about a little bit more about the concept of responsiveness and like using Flexbox and things like that. And then we'll do a small project. I was actually working on that project. I didn't have enough time to finish, so we'll finish it together. I have like the start of it. So yeah, let's talk about HTML. So as most of you know, HTML is the building blocks for the website. So if you like have a website, like let's say you go to any website, sorry, I muted myself. If you go to any website, let's go to our website most people know, something like CNN.com or something like that. Any like big website that you know, and you right click and open view page source, right? You see a bunch of stuff here, but if you go all the way down, you see that most websites have HTML. It might not look exactly the way you think it is, but let's go to, let's actually look at our website because I know I built HTML with this one. So let's view this one. So as you can see here, it's dark because my computer is on a night mode. But let's wrap the lines here. As you can see, it starts with HTML here, like this typical HTML head. We have meta information here. All these are like meta information. So all the way down here. So all these are like JavaScript and CSS information all the way here. So up to line 168 is meta information. So what do I mean by meta information? I just mean like information about the website. So you could enter here what the name of the website, like here we have a meta, we have meta name, description, content, mentorship plus portal. So that's the name of the website basically right here. And then you have a CSS link here, file, and we have a bunch of other CSS. So this is how it's going to look like if you build more complex websites. You'll have a lot of CSS files. This is more like a system called Bootstrap. You will see a lot of stuff like that. And then you will see JavaScript, which we will learn another time. You see, you could also put a JavaScript in the header, right? And then if you go all the way down where we have like the end of head, you see we have the body here, and then we have more information here. So sorry about that. So yeah, so every website is built with HTML. So it doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is. Still, you need to have HTML. You need to have the tags and everything. And I will let you guys, check out the tags and everything. So when I say tags, I mean the HTML tag, which is like this is a tag, this is a tag, or elements. There's a lot of them. So we won't go over all of them, but we'll see an example how they work. Okay, so that is the basics of HTML, of like what is used for. It's kind of like structuring the website the way you want it. If you want to divide the website into small sections, then you could use div to divide, and we learned how to use section. We learned how to use a header, a nav. So you could use that to kind of like organize your website. So that's the whole thing about HTML. And then CSS, and how to link CSS. We will learn how to link CSS to a website. But CSS is for basically making the website look nicer. It's using rules like this to make the website look nicer. So you just say background color, and then you give it a color. So if we actually try this example, you see that the background color is that. You could make it tomato, I think. That's kind of like a red. Yeah, nice red. You could change the colors of the header. So this is white now. So you can see here it says white. You could change it to whatever you want. Let's say something like orange. I don't think it's gonna look good, but yeah. Center. So this is text align center. It means this text is centered in the page. So it doesn't matter how you make it big or small, it will still be centered in the middle, which is great. Yeah, and then there's more. There's the font size. So it's all set up like this. You select an element. So this is a selection. You select an element which are already in here. So they have to be in the HTML body. You could only select HTML, what's in the body. You could select the body itself right here, but you cannot select the head, right? You cannot select the head because you cannot see what's in the head. It's only for meta information. And you could select something outside of the body, but it's not recommended. Put everything in the body and then target that like this, like put this paragraph, okay? So that's how you do selection on how HTML and CSS work together. And you could do more things. So there's more selections. If we look at, we go back here and we look for selection. I think if we say selectors, yeah, so selectors here, you can see that we have a class selector, we have universal selector, which is this one. When I say universal, I mean, if you use that star, it means it will select everything. So if we go back to the example we're just looking at, which is this one, and I go up here and say star, and then say something like change the background, then it will change the background. It will ignore that you change the background here. So if we say background color, and we say something like blue, let's say, and run, see, it ignores that you have a body here. There's a little bit here info. It doesn't select here because there's the body is what is selected. I'm not sure why it's not selected this part, but it should override everything else. So if you have font size that is this size, then you could add font size here and it will change that all the font sizes to that size. So if we say something like 5 pixels, which is really small, and run, it changes that. The only part is, the only part is it doesn't change for the paragraph. Anything else that's doesn't have a font size, if we add a font size here, it will not change. That's because CSS is cascading. It means the rule that's the last one is the one that's going to be applied. But if you don't have that rule, if we don't have this selected here, this paragraph should be really small, like that, right? So that's selection. You could select a class, you could select an element, an ID. This is how you select an ID. So that's generally selection, right? Any question about what CSS is and how is used? Anything about CSS? All right. So let's go to an example. Let's build something from the scratch, basically. So let's say we don't have anything and I tell you guys, go ahead and build a project, right? So the first thing I'll do is I'll open my folders and then I'll find a place that I want to create that project in. So let's say my project is in here, kind of organize this so that we can put in here. So let's create a folder and call it like review so that we could use that later. And then we want to build our project here. Let's give it a folder. Let's call it, and you could use the terminal to create this. So let's actually practice that. It's always good to practice your terminal knowledge. So let's actually close this. If you have Windows, you could use git bash. If you have a Mac, you just type terminal and it will open terminal for you. Now, let me zoom in. We need to navigate to exactly here. So right here where we're at, we need to navigate to that. So I'll show you how to do that. And I wrote all the commands that you need in the group, the Slack group or the Slack channel. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to find out where we're at. So ls. Okay, now you see all these folders. You're like, okay, I need like pictures, right? So you say cd pictures, and then you could write pic and then tab, and that will finish it for you. And then you have to hit enter on your keyboard every time. Next thing is you can say ls, and it will bring up all this. For you, you might not have all these folders, so it might show something like one folder or no folders. If you don't have any folders, you could create folders by typing mkdir and then the folder name, right? We need to, I know where it is, so it's in the Gabby folder. And then we could say ls. There's a lot here. I know where it is. It's in cd plus that folder, which is your class name. And then we could say ls. And now you have less folders. So we have all these folders, which are same as like this. Just doing this and this are same, right? So if you put right next to each other, you see that we have these folders and we have these folders, right? And you can see the name here at the top. You can see the name here. So it's the same thing. And then if we want to go into this folder, which is the review, we double click this one. And this one we say cd review. And we have to write exactly how it is with the capital R. And right now we're at the same place. Same place here. So if we say ls, it shouldn't show anything, right? So, and I wrote these commands ls and all this I'm doing right now in the channel. Let's create a folder, mkdir. Let's call it review 01. This is the first one. So you can see it's already created here. And let's cd into that. Cd into review. If you don't have anything that starts with R, it will just choose that. Here we want to create a couple of things. We want to create a HTML file. We want to create CSS file, and then I think those are those two. Let's start with those two. So, who can help me? How do we create a file in the terminal? What is the command for creating a file? Who remembers?
mkdir.
mkdir creates a folder. So dir stands for directory, which is a folder. So there's another command to create files. So we want to create an HTML file. We want to create index.html. So if you want to know that, you could go back to the channel, go all the way up where I posted, and I should pin this so that you guys could have it all the time. So I'll pin it, and you could go to here. You see things that are pinned, and I'll pin this too. And you could put it somewhere in your computer too. So these are Linux commands, and now we're doing Linux. If we're doing anything with a Git, these are the Git commands. So in the Linux, the create file is touch. So to create a file, you type touch and then the file name. So we say touch, which is a weird name. I don't know why they chose touch. They should say something like mk file or something like that. Touch index.html, right? So now we should have a file called HTML there, index.html, and then we're going to create another one, touch style.css. Okay, so those are two files, and now we could just open this with VS Code. If you have a Mac, you could just grab and drop it here on your VS Code logo, and then it will open that for you. If you have Windows, then you could just open the VS Code, Visual Editor, and then open folder, and then it should take you to your files. You could just navigate to where that is. Okay, and then open. Should be the same. Later, okay, let's zoom everything in so you guys can see better. On the VS Code, if you have never used the VS Code, this is a code editor. On the left side, you have all these icons. So you might not have all of them. You might not have this and this. You might have the rest. So the first one is your files. So these are the files that you're going to be working on. You could click any of them. It will open it here. If you want to open another one to the left of it or to the right of it, you could just right click the one you want to open and then say open open to the side, and that will split it into two files. So you could work on them both. If you have a bigger screen, that would be easier. And then other things you could do is you could auto save. So if you click auto save, once you make a change, you don't have to click save. Otherwise, if you don't have the auto save and we make a change, it will have that little where is it? It will have a little dot that will show here. It's not showing right now because we zoomed in or something. Basically saying you didn't save. So autosave always is good. Another thing is you could change your theme. Usually if you're a developer, always have a darker color because it's good for your eyes, but you could always change your colors here. You could have a brighter one, which I'm sorry, it's gonna look really bright. And then you could have other ones too. There's different colors and stuff. So yeah, whatever fits your your theme. Actually, I am a colorblind, so there's also one for colorblind people too. So right here, I don't use it that much because I think there's a darker one, not that one. But yeah, just go with the one that it comes with most of the time, which is I think this default one. Yeah, the default one looks fine. Yeah, so that's a VS Code. That's a visual editor. It's made by Microsoft. I'm an insider for VS Code, meaning like when they make releases, I'm like the first person or the first group of people to see those changes before the public. But the one you can have is going to be the public one. This one is for anyone who's interested to test new stuff. So yeah, and then you could download extensions and stuff like that here. So it has extensions or like apps for this editor. So you could have something like HTML. If you type HTML, it will have a lot of things for HTML, like code snippets and things like that, boilerplates and formatting. So if you want to format your HTML automatically, you could use these and install them. But you'll get to know it more later. Okay, so now let's get to the actual project. So now we have the HTML and we have the CSS. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set up the layout for the HTML. So let's quickly set it up. And I have a code hinting thing, like it shows you what you're supposed to do. It's an AI, but you don't have that, so it makes my job easier. So here, let's type head, and then the head will have title. Here we'll have the body, and then the closing tag for the body. So we save that, and we could open it with browser. That should open there. So okay, so we're good now. Good start. Second thing is we need to do is we need to connect the, I don't know why this is not getting smaller. Second thing we need to do is we need to connect our CSS to the HTML. Before I go on, any questions? Any questions you guys have? You could type it anytime if you're confused about anything I'm doing. Okay, so let's connect our CSS to the HTML. So this is our CSS file. If you have another folder in here, let's say you have something like assets. Usually assets are like your CSS, your pictures and things like that. And then we have another folder in there like CSS. And then you put this in here. So now you have a folder. The reason why it's like this is because you only have one folder. If you have another folder here, it will be different. So if you have something like JS, which is JavaScript, so it will look like that. So sometimes you'll have it like that. So in your assignment, I think you have it like that. We can say here link, and then we have to say rel equal to style sheet. So this is basically saying we have a link here, and the style is style sheet is basically, this is saying this is a CSS, and then this is where the CSS is at. So let's change that because it's not in there. So make sure you start with a dot when you're linking CSS or any file like images and stuff like that. Dot and then a slash, and then that will bring up this folder assets, and then it will bring up this CSS, and then CSS has only style. So that's how you link it. And another way to know if you linked it correctly is by going to the CSS file. Let's delete this one for now and add in something like some CSS. So let's add something like body, background, color, tomato, something like that. Now you know when it reflects here, now it's connected. Sometimes you might have something like this. Some people might put it like this. Let's see if it works. So this works, but sometimes you'll have something like that or something like that. So something is wrong with the linking, and it will throw off the CSS. I'm not sure what's still connected, but it should not show something like that. Yeah, something like that. And then you have like, what is wrong? I'm adding CSS. What's wrong? It's not reflecting. And the reason is because you're not connected correctly. So make sure it's connected. Any question about that? So this is called external CSS. So because it's in another file, that's why it's external. What else came? Mohammed Sudo, Mohammed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the browser, is it open on a like this page you're on right now?
Yeah.
Are you remember you talked about the live?
Yeah.
Yeah, so is it on the live or is it like on the browser?
So you could do in two ways. Now it's open on the live server thing. So now if I disable that, here it shows go live. And also the way to know that is because you have here at the top, you have a you have that 12 you have like 127.0.0. Yeah, so that's kind of like localhost. So this, you could actually say this on localhost like that, and it should be the same because we stopped it, but it should be the same. You don't have to do this way, so you could just go to the folder itself and then double click or right click and then open with Chrome, and
Yeah,
that
that's what I
way,
did.
yeah. So this way, the only downside to this is when you make changes here, it will not reflect right away unless you save it, unless you refresh it. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to keep clicking that refresh. That's the only thing. If you want to get this live thing, you could just go here and call, I think it's called live server. Yeah, live server. So, and then you just hit install and it should be good to go. And then you always have this, especially if you have an HTML file, it only works with HTML. So if you are in like CSS file, it will not work. So if you're in here, you can't go live in CSS file. It will look weird. I mean, it's detecting the HTML file now, so that's why it's doing that, which is great. But if you have something, another language, it will not work. Yeah.
And another thing is, on the assignment that we did, where it said to insert the meta tag, we did, but we didn't see the being reflected on the web page. So that's where we were confused at. And then also the media query.
Yeah.
That part we didn't, so we didn't see the change, and we were just kind of confused about that.
Yep, we'll get to the media query and the meta tags. Yeah, so the meta tag, there's a couple of meta tags. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I'm cutting you off. Does it go under the title? Like the meta tag goes in the head, right?
It just goes to the head. It doesn't matter where you put it. You can put it at the top of the head, the title, and this title goes here. By the way, goes to the like the tab, the browser tab. It doesn't show in the body of the website. It only goes all the way at the top. If you open the the code here, you see it has the same HTML, but this title, if we change to something like test, and we refresh this, you see that at the top it says test. So this one, it's not that big of a deal. It's good for like if you're putting the website on Google or something like that, and people are searching. Let me put my do not disturb. But yeah, yeah. Let's look at the meta tags. Let's close this.
Thank you.
The meta tag. Let's go to W3 schools. And then let's type something like head meta tag HTML. Okay, so meta tag. So the meta tag is, you have a lot of meta tags. This one is good. This one is for something called Unicode. For example, you know, in computers, everything you see is Unicode. It means basically like how the computer interprets text. It's a little more advanced concept, but in general, it means like if you're writing in English, if your website's English, or the English letters or Latin letters, as they say, basically these alphabets, then this is what you put on. If you have like Arabic website, then there's a different Unicode, like there's a different one. Then it's easier for the browser to read your website. Otherwise, it's gonna look weird, or like it's gonna have like characters and stuff like that. So it's good to put on this one. It's not necessary. I mean, it's for like a beginner, but if you build in a bigger project, it is definitely important. This is good for Google and like the reading devices. So they know what the website is about. So if Google is looking up your website, then they know this what it's about. For example, if you look for something like Gaby School, you see that Google already knows what this website is about. So Immersive Online Coding Bootcamp, and if you go to the Gaby School website and you look at the meta tag, that's what it says right here. So the meta keyword, we have a meta keyword and we have a meta description, and that's what it grabs, the meta content. You also have this, the author. It's good to put on the author so people know who built the website. And then there's this one that doesn't make any sense, the viewport. This one is for mobile devices, so the responsiveness. So we definitely need this one if we're building a responsive website. So you put it in the head, somewhere in the head, and it's always like that. So it doesn't change, which is great. So this one is designed usually for like, let's go to here. And if you view it as a mobile, like here, we tap it here, then underneath it, you don't have anything that scrolls left to right. You only have it, you only have like everything fitting into the window. For example, let's go to, yeah, I can't show you here as an example, but I'll show you later when we add images and stuff. If you don't have the viewport, if you don't have this viewport, you will have like you have to scroll right and left, right? So that's the only thing. And also it detects any device. So this automatically detects any device you have, and then it makes the screen fit that device. And if you have a responsive website, then it uses the media query, to make everything fit into the window. So that's what it's used for. So that's the only one that's super important when it comes to responsive web design. So let's just quickly add any other questions you guys have about that. All right, let's quickly build a basic website. I don't even know what it's about. Let's just choose whatever. It doesn't matter what it's about. Let's choose what is today. Okay, You guys choose. What should we make a website from? Let's make a website about Denver, Colorado. We were talking about that. So let's make a website about that. Okay. Denver, Colorado. Yeah. Okay. So Denver, okay. So let's call it Mile High City. That's the website. Okay. Now we can decide how we want to structure the website. So the first thing I usually do is I have like the container div. So I'll just write class, and you will see this in something called Bootstrap, which is a framework built with CSS. So later on, when you guys build in a bigger website, you don't have to write all the CSS yourself. There's a whole framework for that. But now you're learning CSS, so it's 100% important to know how to write all that stuff by yourself. All right, so we have that. Let's quickly add a header section. Let's add a title and some navigation. I have an AI thing that detects everything for me, so it's just great. It adds navigations for me, which is great. So we have that set up, header, and then let's add some content for the website. So it already adds a main. That's a lot of text. By the way, this AI I'm using is called GitHub Copilot, which recently came out. Copilot. It's a AI programming kind of thing. So you don't need to know about it because you guys, it's gonna confuse you more, but it helps you write code basically. So we have the main. We didn't want it a main right now. Let's add here a section because we want to stick with how we learned it. So, and then we have header, and right here we can add a div. So this div is going to be about basically a small introduction about the city, Denver, Colorado. Okay, and then we have H1 and we have paragraph, which is great. We want another one for like, let's close that section. We want another one for like, tell me something else about the city. What other things we should be write about the city? Anything else? I want to add images first. I want to add images, but also I want to add something else too. Let's add events or something. It doesn't matter really. So let's add one more section for like events. So usually when you're making a website, this is how you kind of come up with it. So you just try to like divide the website into sections ahead of time. So especially like if you're building a bigger website, you're not going to write the code at the same time while you're designing. You always have to go and basically highlight what you want to like draw it out basically. So I usually just kind of like have a drawing session and like brainstorming session and things like that. I'm not sure why it's not coming, but yeah, don't code before you figure out what you want to write about or what you want to code about. H2, let's say events, and then this thing will fit it out for us probably. No, okay, that's fine. So events, let's make events like maybe a list. So let's say something like UL. Okay, yeah, so it already knows some of the events that happen in Denver. Okay, so that's good. We have events here, and then the last one would be like the footer. Actually, we could add images. Let's add a couple of images. So let's turn this into images, or let's say, yeah, images fine. We can change the title always. Okay, it already selected some images for us. Actually, it's trying to like bring in some images, which is okay. We want to put all the images into one div. We'll give the class and all that stuff later. Not like that. Okay. Okay. So 3 images is fine. I'm trying to make it look like your assignment, the one you had, which had images. So now, as you can see, everything looks great. It doesn't look great. Let's view it. It does not look great, but that's fine. Let's get rid of that red background. Okay. So as you can see, that's our website. We need a footer section. Let's add that. Okay, it's great. Footer. Let's bring back the live editor. So I don't want to keep refreshing it. Okay. So far, any questions about how we set up the HTML? So as you can see, when I say semantic HTML, I'm talking about like header. This is the header section. We have one section here. We have another section. And you could, like, when we add in the CSS, we will name each one of them with class, right? And then we have the footer at the end. So this is how you kind of like organize it for yourself. Okay, container looks good.
Could you add another image on the header, trying to make it look like our assignment?
Yeah, so you could add like a logo here, if you want. So now we have like just the text here, but you could add an image here. So that would be the logo.
Can you show us how to do the logo like you just said right now?
Yeah, so the logo, like you could grab any image, but we could add instead of this text, or you could add right next to the text. So we could say we need to add, like, if you ever have two things, always put them in a div, right? So as you can see here, we have a lot of things here. Actually, this nav is not necessary because we have the UL here, but the nav is semantic, so that like if there's a device, reading device, anything, it knows these are not just any list. These are the navigations. But if we put here an image, and it's already selected as a logo, then we have two things here that are like floating. We cannot put them in a display flex. We can't do anything with them. So we need to put them in their own div, right? And then we can just call them class. Could give them like a logo. You can call it like a logo section or whatever, but just logo is fine. We already have another. We don't have another class called logo. Okay, which is good. So right there, and then as you can see, it indented itself automatically. No, it didn't indent. Okay, let's indent that. Okay, indent these two. All right, so you have these two things that are in one div. So now it's easier for us to select with the display flex. Okay, so and we'll grab some images and stuff like that. All right, so and then we have the nav. Everything looks good. Let's give them some classes. Let's give this image a I mean, we could just select it as like logo and then image, because there's no other one. There's no other image. So that's good. Sections is good. We don't, do we need this div? We don't need this div since we have a section. Okay, so you already have a parent element, which is this one, and there's two elements here, so we don't need that. We don't need this div either. Okay, there's last one. Okay, so if you have already some parent element, you don't need more than that. Okay. Yeah, so everything looks good here when it comes to HTML wise. In general, you don't need a CSS class if you have like a section, But if you want to like differentiate, so if we want to like, we could say something like this one is class, we could say about. So this one is the about section. This one we could give it a class, and we could say events. And then the last one would be like images. So you could use class, and then we could say images. Okay, the footer is fine. So now let's any question about the HTML so far?
In
Okay.
the sections, when you were talking about the parent element, are you referring to a section, or you said if you have a parent element, you don't need the divs? So
So
which one
you
would
have
be
two,
the parent element?
yeah, so you have two children here, right? Two children elements. You have the paragraph and you have like H2. Their parent is the section. So if we add another div here, it wouldn't make sense. It'll just be there for no reason. So if we add a div here and we surround that div, this div doesn't make any difference, right? You could add a class to it and call it like about, but you have the section, so you don't need this div, right? That's the only thing. So get rid of anything you don't need and organize your code. So as you can see, I organized it in a nicer way. Sometimes, you know, it will confuse you if you have your code like that and you don't know where's what, and you know, so make it screen bigger, give each section or each portion of your code a little space. So this one's a little bit different, as you can see, and you could give this one a little space. So you have like the header here, there's a space, and then section space, so that you know what's what. Indent your code as much as you can. So it means like indent it like this. This section has these two and it's indented like that. So it would, you know, so you understand where everything is. Okay. Any other question about the HTML? And I'm winging this, so I don't actually have code ready, so I might not get some of the stuff. I might not get everything right. So now let's add some CSS. Who remembers what is the first thing we add in the CSS before we even do anything else? And who remembers? Remember the reset CSS? So we have to add a reset. The reason for that is the browser adds a automatic padding on margins. I'll show you that margin and padding. You see there's a space between here. We didn't add any CSS to add that padding or margin, whatever that is. Even if you go to inspect your HTML, there's nothing here. This is different. This is for the live server thing that we're using. But if you inspect the CSS here, you'll see that if you go to the HTML element, there's a display block here. We didn't decide that. If you go to the body, there is there's a margin. There's a 8-pixel margin that we didn't even add ourselves. So that's why the reset is important, because it will confuse you. It'll confuse everything. So we'll just go here and just copy this whole thing. You can leave that above portion, copy it and paste it. So this is well-known reset code, so you don't have to write it yourself. And then here we just write end of reset. Okay, so right underneath it. Now if we go back to our HTML, see there's nothing here. Everything looks really bad. That's because we reset everything. If you go to body, there's nothing. There's still line height 1, and that's because part of it is here. So this is, you could get rid of this. You could just say 0 if you want, and that will squish everything together. Keep it the way it is. Okay, so that's good. Now we can just start the way we want it. So now the first thing we need to do is we need to have like a general code. So let me see. So let's make everything like centered. So we selected the universal selector. So it adds box sizing. Box sizing helps us with like everything. Like if we have sections, right? So the sections will not like bleed into each other. So if you have a small space, this text will not go into this section, right? That's the only thing. All right. Let's add some baddie CSS. So we're gonna add some font size, font family, font size, line height, background. I don't even know what this is. I'm just following with the what the AI recommends. Okay. So that's how it's gonna look like. So now instead of yeah, the bed is fine. You could also like select the container here. So we don't even need that, to be honest. You don't need the container. Okay. So now we also need to add our margin 0 and auto, so that everything is sort of like centered. And also we need what else do we need? We need a 0. We need a padding 0 here. Okay. The last thing we need is okay, so that's all good. Now we're gonna go to the header section. And you could also go back to the previous examples if you are confused about anything. So on this one, we're just winging it. But yeah, you could go back to the example of the assignment. So on this one, let's add header. So this is the header section. Header, I don't know why it added that. So the header, we want to make the header this is our header section. The first thing we need to do is we need to work on how do we align everything. So now, as you can see, everything is on top of each other. We want to like make it so that we put the navigation here and we put the logo and the name here. So let's do that. So instead of all this, we could just say display flex, right? And then I don't know why it's not selecting. What's going on? Display flex. Oh, header. Okay, header is not a class, right? Header is not a class. So as you can see, everything looks good. We could also add some background. Yeah, justify content is space between is good because now we have the navigation on the right side and we have the logo on the left side. The reason why we have two names here is because we don't have a logo image. So let's grab a couple of images actually before we do anything. Let's go Denver, Colorado. Let's grab for logo. Let's call it logo here. Yeah. It's always good to get one that is that doesn't have a background. So the way you could filter it by going to tools, color, and transparent. So this one is transparent, which is good. Save image. Let's save it. Download folder is fine. Let's grab something like a couple of more images. We want just normal images. So it's always good to grab images that are the same size, and you could filter by here. Let's see, large, let's say large, but we wanted to customize it. Okay, it wouldn't allow us to customize that. But yeah, so it's always good to get one that's similar or same size so that you have everything fit together correctly. So let's grab this one and maybe this one. And we just need 3 of them. They're all downtown. So, okay, this one's fine. They're all different sizes and it's not going to look good, but you could always go to an editor, code editor, I mean, the image editor, and like change the size to the way you want it. Now we just go to our folder here, our download folder. Let's go to the images we just downloaded. Okay, so these are the images. So let's copy all of them. And make sure they're like JPEG or PNG. Copy all of them, and then we're gonna go to the folder that we wanted to paste on, which is the assets. And then in the assets, we create a folder called images, right? So you want everything to be organized. Now we have all these images. Let's just change their names to something that makes more sense. So let's call image 1, and then call this one image 2, and then the last one image 3. I could have saved the time if I worked on this before. So let's go this logo. All right. Let's go back here. So our logo is PNG. So it should automatically actually change our right here. Where is it? Where is our? Yeah. So automatically grab the image. Looks nice. And then the other images, we go down here. We just change this one to image 1, image 2. So they're gonna look huge. Image 2, and then image 3. So they're all gonna look really big and out of place. And that's because you haven't added any CSS or anything. This one we could add the width here. So let's give it like 200. Is that big enough? No, 300 maybe. Okay, or 250, because we want to fit in all of them. So let's give all of them 250 pixels size. This is going to be the default, and then in the CSS we could change them. So this is how they look right now. The reason why they're not the same size is because one is bigger than the other ones. And then the logo, we're going to give a default width of not 250. Actually, the logo we're going to edit in CSS. Okay, so we're going everything from scratch, so that's why it's taking a while. Okay, so now we align these two. Let's go here and change the text here. Header 1, H1. Is it H1? Yeah. H1. So this should be the logo. H1. Font size 30. No, we don't want that big. So we're basically changing this H1. You could also just say, you don't have to put a logo here. You could say header H1. It will grab the closest one that is in here. So it will just skip here and grab this one. This is also fine. Let's make this, let's actually edit the image first because it's too big. Header, let's call it image. We don't want it like that. So let's change the height. Okay, let's make it like let's give it a 100 pixels. Let's give it like 100 pixels is fine. And then I think we should just remove the title because the logo has its own name and everything. So we don't need the title here. So sometimes you have to make a decision of like how the website is going to look like. Right now, the logo is not just a letter, it's the name of the city and everything. So we don't need that H1. Okay, so we can just make this one a little bit bigger so that it looks nicer that way. And now we don't need this div. So let's just get rid of that div. Okay. So now the only thing left is the navigation. And let's make all of them in like one, let's give them one color, the background color. background color of, I'm not sure what color it's gonna give. Okay, interesting color. We could change it here, which is great. Let's give it something very dim. Not very dim, like very like light, but different. Doesn't look good. Okay, that looks fine. And then now we can work on the navigation, right? So we just, so we just say header nav display flex. This wouldn't work because the nav is only has this child element. So we need to say UL here, right? And say UL, and you see now it does that. Display flex, all this center, all this is fine. Li, okay. So it gave us the Li. So now it selected this one, each one of them, and it gave a margin of 10 pixels of, this is the top, and this is the right, the top and the bottom, and this one is the right on the left. So it gave right and left 10 pixels. And you guys could go to W3 Schools and see how margins work. And we also need to center everything in the middle. So let's do that. So here we need to add one more element, which is align items and then center. I think that's how it was. Hopefully, right? So this is the UL. No, not the UL. We wanted to select the UL. No, let's actually add it to the header right here. That's what I meant. The header. So now like they're centered in the middle, all of them. Looks good now. So now we're actually working on the desktop. We want to start with mobile, right? So for the mobile, we want this to be the logo to be at the top, and then these to be like right here in the middle, underneath them maybe. Okay, so let's do that. Before we do anything, let's comment this out for a minute. Let's comment all this actually. So we want to write the mobile first before we do anything. So we could just use this same code and then change it to mobile. So let's do that. Let's convert. And also we're going to copy later to the media query. So let's copy, paste, and then not that one, this section. Let's give this a flex direction of column. So right now it's they're on top of each other. And then we need to still make it so that the image is a smaller size. Why is it doing that? Get rid of that. Yeah, that's why. Okay. All right, so the image is at the top, and then now we want to make these like align here. Okay. So we did that, and then let's get rid of this. Actually, we could write it later, it's fine. The image is like that, and then let's uncomment these and just edit them. Okay, so now it looks nicer. We just need to make sure they're a little bit bigger. So UL, let's give it a font size of 20 pixels maybe. No, it's too big. 18 or 17 pixels is fine. Margin, the margin is too big, so let's give it 15. Yeah, let's give it a 10. So it looks nicer. Let's get rid of like the line underneath it. You could just say here, text decoration, none. Wait, what did okay, I have to select the link by itself. So yeah, so you can see li is here. So these are li's. Now we can select the link by itself, the same list of tags. See here. We could do other things too. We could give just the navigation itself its own background by just going here and selecting the navigation. Okay. I don't know what he gave us. I don't know what this is. So you should say here header nav. I don't know what this is. We just wanted the background color. Okay, this background color needs to change. Okay, background color, and then width 100%. But we didn't want it the width to affect like the distance between them, but it's fine for now. Let's change something else a little bit, maybe darker version of that. And then let's change the font to let's change this to color white. Okay. And then we need to give it a need to give it the padding or margins, I mean, on the sides. Let's give it a bigger one here, 30. So they're like on the center. Okay. So that's kind of like how you decide what you want to do, is by just going back and forth, seeing what you changed. How do I decide what to select is by just basically what you could go to here in your browser. If you want to like change something in the image, you could just right click it, inspect. It will bring up this inspector. You could actually change it right here. You can see right now we have the image, and the image has a width of that. You could actually make the width bigger like that. You could play around with this, and then you could change the margins if you want like that. You could add more CSS here. So this is the Chrome, basically it's built in Chrome. But the thing is, if you refresh, the changes you made here will be gone. So you always have to like copy, go back to your editor and paste it, right? And then save. So let's say we want to add something like border, 2 pixels, solid black, something like that. And then, yeah. And then you want to like, you could play around with it, the border and all that stuff, change the numbers. And when you see everything looks good to you, then you copy and paste it, right? And then you can select any element here, and you could just play around with the CSS, see if it actually, what happens if you remove that. Usually that's how you learn, is by just trying here. And the good thing about this one is nothing will be permanently changed. So you could always just refresh it, and then it will just go back to the way it was. So this is a good way to learn the CSS. Any question about that?
I have a question about the margin. I've seen like margin top, bottom, left, right. So, and I've seen that with the padding as well. Margin 0, you 30 pixels maxay kala yihiin? 0 يعني maxay يعني like what is it?
Like this one, what is this 0, and what is this one? What is the difference between these two?
Yeah, like what if I have just 10 pixels and not the 0? يعني what is the 0 bringing in this situation?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. So the 0 is basically resetting. You could just, the thing about the 0 is it's the way the margin is set up. So let's see an example of how margins are set up. So I think that will help you understand. If I can find a place to maybe draw. Okay. All right. So let's see how margins are set up. So margins are, ignore these images and stuff. So margins are basically, they have like 4 sections. So consider like we talked about the CSS box model, right? So the box model has a box at the top, and then it has the top box. This one is called, this is the margin. So we're just gonna say M, and there's each element, every element. For example, the element we were just working on, which is the logo, let's say. The logo has a margin at the top, but the margin is usually invisible. So if you set it to nothing, then it will be nothing. It will just, there will be nothing there. But if you apply anything, if you add any number to it, then it will increase that margin, and then it will push this box inside, right? And then it will push everything next to it away. And then there's the border, which is this one. This is the border. So I can change the colors, but I'm colorblind, by the way. And then there's padding, right? The padding is, and let's say this is your content, right? This is where you write or you have image or whatever. Then the thing that right next to it, the content is the padding. The padding is P, right? So if you increase the padding, you're pushing away the border, basically. And then, so that's how they work together. So if you add padding to anything, it means you're just pushing away the border and the margin, but you're not doing anything at the, like outside of this box. So let's see an example of that right now. Like what we just worked on, right? Yeah, this is where we worked on. So let's see example of that. Let me remove this. Let's add a border to the image, right? So the image we just worked on, which is right here, let's add a border to it. Let's say border 3 pixels solid, and then let's say red, so you guys can see it. You see that the border has a border and everything, a red border. Outside of the border, it has margin. See, we already added a 20 pixel margin. Let's remove that. Now there's no pixel. It means every element that's around it will just come squish in, and like there will be no space around it, right? The reason why it's in the middle is because we use this flex display thing, and we align everything in the middle. But other than that, it's squished now. There's nothing outside. So we could add a margin to it. So the way margin works is you have, so if you want to divide the margin, you could say margin top 20 pixels, margin bottom 20 pixels. Then that would be top and right. If you want to add left and right, you have to say margin left 20 pixels and margin right 20 pixels. All this, you could just say margin 20 pixels, right? Combine all this is margin 20 pixels. If you want to combine, if you want to say, let's say we don't want anything at the top or at the bottom, but we want on the right and the left only, you could just say 0 for the top and the left, and then you could say 20 pixels for the left and right. So if you write it like this, basically you're saying this 0 is top and bottom, and the right and the left are these two. So if you have a shortcut, this is the shortcut for make it the top and the bottom 0, and then make the left and right 20 pixels. And I can give you example. I can give you like a resource for this. If we go here, if we go to margin HTML, we go here. Let's see. Hopefully this. Let's add CSS here. CSS margin. So right here is where it explains everything. You could divide them the way I just divided like this. You could have a shorthand, which is basically by making it, so you could spread it out like this. So you could just say, you could say, this is the top, by the way. So usually it works as like a clockwise, right? It's not counterclockwise, clockwise. So if you point at the top of your head, this is the top. Top, then what is this one? If it's clockwise. What do you guys think? So this is clockwise. This is the top.
Left hand.
What is this one? Just move your hand to the right, right?
Right.
Is that counterclockwise or clockwise? I'm not sure. That's clockwise, right? Yeah, it's clockwise. So this is the right, the bottom, and the left. And there's also, I think they give example here of how it looks like. Let's actually say margin CSS. And then find an image, because they will show, some people will show that. So images. Let's see. Okay. Usually how I think about it is just clockwise. Top, right, see here. Top, right, bottom, left. And that's how the order is. So yeah, so what I was saying is, if you do like this, you're choosing only the top and the bottom here, and then the right and left. That's why we made this one a 0 right here. Where was it? Right here, 0. We're basically saying here, make the top and the bottom 0. If you could add pixels here, but it's not necessary. If you have 0, you have 0. It's a 0%, 0, whatever. It's a 0. But if you have a number, then you need to decide what it is. 1% is not same as 1 pixel, right? So let's go back to everything the way it was. Does that answer the question? And then the pattern is exactly the same. The pattern is the same. You could say pattern, top, right, left, and then the order is the same. It's clockwise, top, right, bottom, and then left. Does that help? The explanation?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions you guys have? Go back the way it was. I don't remember. Okay. Let's see what we could do now. Okay. So we have that. Let's go back to the project. Choose this. Let's remove that border. Where was that? Added some border. Okay. So the box model is usually like what do you need to refer when it comes to margin and padding and border. The box model. You could find it everywhere. Okay. Any other question? We're gonna quickly finish up, and then so now we're doing the mobile version, and then we're gonna do the other ones. All right. Send me any questions you guys have. No problem. So now let's fix the about quickly. So now we have the navigation good. So this is gonna be, I mean, you could add hover. So the reason why we have a hover here, who remembers the name of this? What was the name of it? It has a name. Something class. Somewhere in here. We have the class selector. What about the hover? I'm not sure why it's not in here. But the hover is called pseudo class, right? Guys remember that in the lesson? Pseudo classes. So this hover is pseudo class. It means when we hover over this element this element A and Li, which is the link, each one, then it will change the color to this, the background to this, and the pattern to that. So let's see if that happens. Okay. So you see, it looks cool. Usually it's best to apply this to the just Li, not the link. And yeah, I'm not sure why do we need a pattern? Okay, looks cool. I think the color would be better if it's a little bit different than that. Same, but a little bit different from the background. Yeah, it's whatever. But yeah, that's how you create a hover effect. If you add anything to that, then whatever you hover over will apply to this CSS. All right, let's give the let's do the other section. We don't have a main, we have a section called the dot about, and that will have a okay. So this program did a lot of things for us, save time. So it applied a display flex to the about, which means that these two will become a flex, and it added a column. So it knows that we already did a column at the top. So that means we're basically doing that. We need to also select this one so that we could change the title, make it bigger. But it gave us a lot of things. It added a alignment, background, and some padding. You can make the padding more if you want, like that. Now it's gonna select probably the H1, which is great. About H1, is it H1, H2? I think, yeah, it's H2. H2, which is too big. We don't want that. 20 pixels. We just want to add not that many margin. We just want to add margin to the we want to add margin to the top and the bottom. Who can tell me how do we add that without using margin, top, all that? What do we write? Let's say we want to add 10 margin to the top and the bottom, and then 0 margins to the left and right. What do we write? So remember that this would be so you could have top, bottom here, and then you have left and right here. All right. So if you want to add a margin to the top and right, you have to add the number here and then add 0 here. So let's add 10 pixels here and then 0 pixels here. So that way it's added that. And then let's make it bold, font, weight, bold, like that. Okay, looks good to me. Any question about that? It's about this section. Let's go for the events. I don't know why it's selecting the paragraph. We don't need that. Let's add this one dot, what was it, events. Events, it added that stuff too. We don't want that. We want to keep the background white. So usually when you're creating something, you want to alternate from this color to white and then that same color again. The flex direction, that's fine. We want to align these two. We want to center. Centering is fine. We don't need this space content between. We don't need that too. Let's remove it from here too. We don't need it right now, since we're not putting things left and right. We're just putting everything in the middle. Let's give it a yeah. So this looks good. Now we just need to target the title and give it the same thing. So we can just copy this. You want to keep everything uniform, right? I'm going to give everything uniform. So let's say here events, like that. And then the last thing is we want to create a list of that. We want to make sure this list looks good. Li, okay. So this list is going to be we could say here, okay. So it already selected UL and then say display flex. So this one is not necessary. Usually list is already in like that order. We could add some color padding and stuff like that here, but it's not necessary. What we need to do is we need to select each one of them. I want to give it a background. So we're going to say dot events ULLI, and we're going to add, yeah, something like that. We want to keep it so that it's a list. It goes all the way to both sides. So let's remove the margin, not that margin. Let's remove the width, or let's make the width 100%. I meant 100%. Okay. Is that how it's supposed to be? No. Okay, we want to give this 100% to. We don't need this. These ones too either. We wanna say li. I'm gonna add 100% here. Okay, and that looks decent. We'll keep it at that. Okay. What else? Yeah, and then the images. That's what we have left. The images, we want to center them. We want to like give them a pattern or margin between them. We want to also change the background to same as the background here, about. So let's just copy the about. Let's go down here. We're just going to say images. And then we want to paste that. Make sure you don't have anything that doesn't look right. So you see we have the same background at the top. Remember, we're kind of alternating that background. We just want to center everything. Column, so that's good. Center. So now it's centered, but it's not centered, or it's centered not horizontally, like, yeah, horizontally it's not centered. I mean, vertically it's not centered, it's centered horizontally. So let's do that. Let's add, okay, let's add a, we want to center them. So let's add, so you could go to the Flexbox cheat sheet. So that's what I always do. If I want to, like, if I forget something, I'll just say Flexbox cheat sheet. And then how do you center something vertically? Then we're going to use this X, it's a Y axis. So you could just search Y axis. Where's the Y axis? Not sure how it's written, but I think it's the content align, or justify content. I mean, justify content, and you could read here about it. Where is it? Yeah, you could read it here. Justify content is you could just look at the image. You could center them, like space between will center it like that. Okay, let's add that. So let's go back to this. It should be like this because we're focusing on mobile first. As you can see, it centers in the middle, which is great. But we don't want it to be like that. Also, let's fix the title. Gonna change this to images. Okay. So when we make it bigger, as you can see, it's trying to fit in this space. So we don't want that, but let's keep it at this for now because it looks good in mobile. It looks fine. The only thing is right now it needs to have, we need to space it out. So it's to space it out, we need to select UI and then LI, and then we need to give a margin. We need to give a margin top on right, top on the bottom, because they're all next to each other. So let's do that. So images, UL, LI. Just want to give a margin. give a margin of, no, yeah, it's li, right? So li, wait, oh, sorry, okay, images. I'm like, wait, what are we selecting? Li, ul, okay. So this is the images. So it's just gonna be a, we're not gonna have li, ul, just gonna have a div. We could give this div something. We can just say class. We could say whatever you want, but I'm just gonna say all images. So we could select that too. So we could just say here, all images, and then each one of them. So that would be image right here. And then it will have a margin. See margin space here, but we don't want to give the margin to the right and left. So that would be 0. Okay. 10 is even too big. Any questions so far about the alignment for this? I think it's going on for, let's see how many, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 38 minutes. Okay, the last one is just the footer, and then we're gonna make it like a fit in desktop, and that would be media queries. Okay. Any questions?
Mal,
Yeah.
what about in case if you have text underneath of the pictures, like the assignment? Are you can wrap them in a div or something like that?
Yeah, so if you have a text, then I would say yes. So let's say you have all images and then you have a text here, you have like a paragraph. Let's say it could be whatever, beautiful city. You have it like that. And then I would say, yeah, I would say just wrap a div around them. And you could give the name of what the image is about or whatever it's about. So yeah, so I'll call this like water or something like that. Class water, something like that. So that you could target that, and then you could, change it like responsive wise. But yeah, you could also select it from here. You could just say, we could say all images, and then you could select all images, and you can select the paragraph in all images. So it will select only this paragraph because that's the only one that's there. So you could also select the water class and then select the paragraph. So either one of them works. So you could just say water P, and then that way you could like change it. You could change this to whatever you want. So let's center it. So we could just say align text center, and then align. It's text align, right? This is align text. What am I writing? Text align, yeah. Center. Right, like that. Then you could change other things if you like. So yeah, that's how you select it. Later on, if you want to put the text on the left side or this and that, then that's when you use this, use a flexbox, use this div. If you don't need to do that, then you don't need this div in general. It's always good to put in a div because these two are together and you have a div. You can just leave the div empty. You don't have to give it any class. You could do that too. Any other question? Another thing is, as you can see right now, this this looks good, but if we open it in mobile, right? If you open it in mobile, you can see there's no scrolling left and right. If we remove the media, viewport, then as you can see right now, there's no way we could like see everything. It doesn't fit in. We have to zoom out for a little bit. as you can see, if you want to see something, you have to like scroll left and right. So the good thing about the viewport is it finds out the device and then it makes it fit. So it doesn't matter how big you make it, it knows like to fit everything into that space. Okay, so that's good. Any questions? So let's finish up with the footer, and then we can do the media query. So the footer, we could just make it centered. We don't need to do anything fancy. Footer, we don't need all that. We can just say footer. I think it's a paragraph. Yeah, footer paragraph, and then center it. Footer P. We can just say text align center. Like that. Okay. Any question? Okay. Should make everything fit in here, but I don't know why it's this is going off space. Okay. If we use this one, should be good. Not good. I think it's too small for this. If we go back to header nav, did we set any width? That's with 100%. That should have worked. I think it's the image, could be the image. No, it's not. Any questions so far? Should have fit, but it's fine. Yeah, responsiveness is always finicky, so you have to figure out what is happening here. Like when you do this, why this is background is doing that. You got to figure that out. Okay. For up to like 300 something, it's good, but then after that, it acts up. Okay. No questions. Okay. Let's do media queries. Oh, it already knows that we're doing media queries. Okay. Give me some media query. Okay. So for the media query, since we're doing mobile, so the media query, you start with the @media, and then you could select the device you want. You could also say all, but if you just say media query and then give it the minimum width, the max width is for desktop first design. So min width, and then that means all devices basically. So we say here @media, and then we could say min width. So minimum width of, let's say, 600 pixels, then apply these rules. So now all we need to do is now just change everything to a desktop. Was this? Okay, I think it was this one. Okay, change everything to desktop after 600 pixels. So we need to be above 600 pixels, which you see at the top here. It's changing. So the way to know is by just adding here like body, background color blue, something like that. So you know like your media query is working. That's how you usually test it. So if you reach 600 pixels, it should change to blue at the background. Right there. So right there is a 600. Underneath 600, above 600. Okay. Looks good. So now the things we're going to change is we want to move the navigation here. We want to move the logo here and the navigation here. So all we need to do is we need to select we need to change this to a row instead of that. So let's say header. row. It's already given us. So a row, okay, and then that looks good. The only thing is we don't need all that. Let's see. What happened? What did I do? Oh, we went under 600. Okay, that looks good. We're not perfecting anything here right now, so we're just gonna stick with that. So it looks good so far. And then we need to like add a space here, so that yeah. So let's add a space for the. I think that was about. Let's add a margin at the top. Margin top. About 20 pixels, it's fine. Right, so it looks good like that. And then I think these are fine. The images, okay. So the images are also, let's make it a lot bigger so that we see everything looks good. Okay, so we need to actually add a limit to how big it can get. So that would be probably the body. Yeah, we need to add width for the body. So when it reaches like 700, let's make it like 800. It stops doing that, going crazy. Okay, that looks fine. So that, yeah, the images, and then we just select the images. We just say images. We want to do something like that. So we already reached 600. Okay, so not the images. First, we need to select the images, and then we need to select just the images, just all images. We want to keep the title in the center. So we can just say here all images instead of the title. And they're just too big for the space. Okay, so now we need to make them smaller. To make them smaller, we need to select each image. Probably need to remove this, the width here. And then choose it in the CSS. So right here, let's change this here. All images, image width, not 100%. Let's make it 150 pixels. Okay. There's also this in the middle. I don't know why. Okay. We need to get rid of the centering. So right now it's trying to center everything. So let's get rid of that centering, which is this one. This is centering everything. So we need to change that. So what do we do with that? So we have to go back to the CSS. Say start first, or we just need to say space between, which it already says. No, that's the general one. Okay, yeah, we need to add it here for all images, not this one. All images. Yeah, I think that, not that only. Okay, so I don't know what it's doing. It's going all off grid. Not the space between. You just need to add some margin to the left and right. Left and right, so we say 0, and then we add 10 pixels. What did we add here? Width. Okay. Row. Okay. We don't need to add the row here because this is a this is the mobile. So mobile shouldn't be a row, this should be a column. And then we're above 600. Yeah, so when we reach above 600, it should become like that. Under 600, it should be this way. The images should be a little bit bigger. So let's make them bigger to like 250. I think that's how it was before. Looks good. And then underneath that, I mean 600 and above, we should align them. Okay, 600 above, we go here, we target the same element that we targeted here. And then we're just gonna change the okay, all images. Let's change let's remove this width, which is fine. It's already defined at the top. Margin, we need to change the margin from top bottom to left and right. 7 pixels. But we still have a problem with this space between. Okay. So the bigger we get, the more, let's make it a little bit smaller, all the images when we make them, when we go to a desktop. So maybe 200. Okay. All right. Looks a little weird, but it's fine. The reason why they are like different sizes is because of the images. The original images are not the same size. Okay. So now if we go mobile, it changes after 600. Right. And we could also add here, we could add this one. We could add the flex wrap, which will wrap everything. So let's add this to the top one too. Actually, just add the top one only. We don't need for, yeah. What was that? All images. Yeah, that's flex wrap here. Oh, it's not working. It shouldn't be like that. Okay. So whatever, it's not, it's details, but you could make it better and look smoother to change and everything. Any questions about that? It's always, you know, like defining and making it look better, smoother, all that stuff. If you want things to be smoother, you usually add like percentages as big like this. So I'm gonna go to the typical way. Should be like this when it's normal. When it's mobile, it should be the other way. Any questions? So that's how it looks in mobile. Desktop, that's how it looks. Any question so far? All right. So if you guys don't have any question, we'll stop it here. If you want to know more about the Git way, I made a video here. So watch this video. It will explain how to do the Git stuff on the terminal. And by the way, I'm not sure if you see still here. Mohammed Abdi is expert in that. He's Abdi was already, he was in another class before, so he understands like the Git and the process we did. So he's always if you have any questions, he understands most of the stuff. They build websites and everything and did JavaScript and the whole process. So he's here to kind of review his what he did, but he understands most of it. Okay, let's stop the recording here.